Hey Exiles, Chronic Painless here with the Week 1 update to my Blade Vortex build guide. I have to say, this build has performed better than I possibly could have hoped, and I've had at least a dozen people come by the Twitch channel to tell me how well the build has been going for them. The map clear has been superb, and the bossing has been more than adequate. I was able to defeat the Exarch and the Eater of Worlds as soon as I had unlocked them. I've also taken down Cirrus, several of the Maven's invitations, and of course, the Maven herself. The build performs very well against the new content of the patch, because Blade Vortex is excellent at killing mobs who spawn right on top of you, and the Veil skills make even the toughest Archnemesis monsters seem relatively easy. In this update, I want to go over a few things. First, some relatively cheap upgrades if you want to spend a few exalts on the build. Second, the best Eater of Worlds and Exarch implicits to look out for. And last, my number one tip for leveling in red maps and beyond. The first item I would recommend purchasing if you're looking to spend a few exalts on the build is the new Ashes of Stars amulet. This amulet has everything. The +1 to skills is very beneficial for Blade Vortex, especially with the new buff giving it even better damage scaling past level 20. The mana reservation efficiency allows us to run Zealotry or perhaps even Determination if you're looking to go in a tankier direction. And the gem quality bonus is an enormous boon, giving our Blade Vortex more AoE, our Herald device more buff effect, and it synergizes very well with some relatively cheap anomalous gems. Which brings me to my next recommendation, Anomalous Assassin's Mark. Assassin's Mark is already a large damage boost to the build, and Anomalous Assassin's Mark is even better despite only costing about 40 Chaos Orbs. Anomalous Assassin's Mark applies an increased damage taken modifier to the target, and this is one of the best ways to scale your damage, as it acts as a more multiplier after the rest of your damage bonuses have been calculated. The next upgrade I would recommend looking at is a cluster jewel that, in addition to Blast Freeze, has Doriani's Lesson. Doriani's Lesson provides Life Leech, which can be very difficult to come by for an elemental spell build. The last upgrade that I would recommend is a new pair of gloves. There are two options here, the first being a pair of Rimsorrow with a spell crit corrupted implicit, and the second being a pair of rare gloves with the new Eater of Worlds physical to cold conversion implicit. The exceptional rank of this implicit combined with a 25% physical to cold conversion craft gives us the 50% that Rimsorrow's was giving us, while also enabling us to get much more beneficial mods than mid-tier strength and mid-tier cold resistance. It's actually much easier than you might think to get a high rank of this specific mod if we use the new Orbs of Conflict. Orbs of Conflict have an interesting mechanic in that they are more likely to raise the level of a lower tier implicit. This means that we can buy a cheap pair of gloves with a low tier of the physical to cold conversion implicit, and then use a small handful of exceptional Exarch currency and Orbs of Conflict to reliably raise the level of the physical to cold conversion mod to the exceptional rank. This is much cheaper than spamming exceptional currency, and you should be able to achieve the result you're looking for about an exalted orb. The next topic I wanted to cover are some of the standout Eldritch implicits that I believe are worth looking for while you're upgrading your gear. The first of these is Drop Scorched Ground while moving, which is a Searing Exarch implicit found on boots. Even the lesser version of this mod is a great thing for Blade Vortex, as we really don't care about the short duration, since our natural playstyle is going to be getting right up in the face of the boss and running circles around them. Scorched Ground provides a huge damage boost, and even the lesser rank gives the same 10% as the higher ranks. Another great Eldritch implicit mod is Aura Effect on your chest. Both the Exarch and the Eater of Worlds can supply this. The Exarch gives global Aura Effect, while the Eater of Worlds provides Aura Effect to a specific aura. The number one aura for us to improve would be Hatred, and combined, these two implicits can give us a substantial boost to our damage output. Last game-changing Eldritch implicit that I wanted to touch on are Freezes spread to enemies within a radius. This is essentially the same as the Blast Freeze Notable, which I've already harped on as being one of the best upgrades we can get for the build, and getting it from gloves is just as good and enables us to look for a damage boosting Notable on our cluster jewels in the future. Finally, I want to go over my number one tip for leveling on this build in high tier maps. and that is respect map mods. Sub-map mods are going to be much deadlier than others for this highly specialized build, and it's important to respect them if you're looking to level up. The most dangerous mod for us is monsters' action speed cannot be reduced below base value. This single mod prevents us from chilling or freezing any monsters, and given how strong Blast Freeze is, you can imagine how devastating it is to lose the ability to freeze at all. This will substantially hurt our survivability as well as our clear speed, since Herald of Ice will no longer be able to chain or even cause any explosions. Monsters have a chance to avoid ailments is similarly dangerous, though obviously not as much as the effectively 100% chance to avoid ailments that the action speed mod grants. The next most dangerous mods also make it harder for us to freeze our enemies. These are monsters have elemental resistance, and monsters take reduced damage from critical strikes. Elemental resistance is obviously a less multiplier on our damage, and reduced critical strikes with the amount of crit chance and crit multiplier that this build is aiming for is another less multiplier. Combined, these two mods would make it very, very hard to freeze enemies and especially bosses. And remember, the best defense is a good freeze fence. So if you want to level up on this build, you want to make sure you're always able to freeze your enemies. Well, that does it for the Week 1 build guide update. Check back next week for more discussion of your favorite spell, Blade Vortex.